Hello and welcome to this Astranti video. Now, what you see in front of you is an extract from our E2 module on organizational structure and project management. Now, these topics, they are in E2 in this instance, but they come up and they're relevant all across CIMA, so all across your studies. And in this video specifically, we're going to be running through what makes a successful project team, and more importantly, how organizational structure will impact on this. Now, if you want to see more materials like this, you can head on over to the Astranti website, where we will offer a full course of CIMA materials, including the one that you see on the screen right now. So with that out of the way, I'll hand you over to our subject expert.
And to begin this next section and to find out what a project team is, I want to give you a little lesson from history. And it's way back in 1910 when Robert Falcon Scott's ship Terra Nova set off from Great Britain and voyaged towards Antarctica. Now, the expedition was made up of 5 men, and it was partly funded by the Royal Geographic Society, and they had given Scott specific scientific objectives. But Scott also wanted to reach the South Pole and claim it for the British Empire. And perhaps he was more focused on this goal than actually on the scientific needs of the stakeholders, the Royal Geographic Society. Now, to prepare for the expedition, Scott sent a dog expert to Siberia to acquire the sled dogs needed, and he also asked a dog expert to buy some Manchurian ponies while he was there. But, unfortunately for everyone concerned with the expedition, the dog expert wasn't a pony expert, and the ponies he bought were ill-suited to the Antarctic conditions. Many of the ponies died, and when one of his team advised Scott to actually just kill the ponies for food, Scott refused. Now, perhaps a lot of you watching this video know how this expedition ends. Scott does reach the pole, but Norwegian expedition has reached it before him, and they used dogs, which were far better suited to the conditions than ponies. Having failed in his goal to claim the pole, Scott turned back, but the team all died on the way home through a mixture of exhaustion, starvation, and cold. Scott, as a project manager, had a personal goal that was at odds with the needs of his stakeholders. He selected inexpert team members for mission-critical roles, such as choosing the ponies, and he used inappropriate resources and ignored the advice of competent team members, which really could have saved the mission. And before a project can begin, an effective project team must be mobilized. But what exactly does a team do, and what makes an effective team? Because we've just seen an example here of an ineffective project team, and a lot of that problem came from the project manager. Now, we do hopefully remember from earlier on that the project team is responsible for undertaking the project activities, and to be successful, the project team has to work as a team. So, for example, the individual and the overall goals should be aligned. So we've just seen, haven't we, in our Scott example, that Scott's individual goals weren't really aligned with the missions overall, and that cost the team their lives. The team should also be well coordinated and controlled. And so one of the ways this could be done is by having an effective project manager, which we've just seen again with the tragedy in the South Pole. Robert Falcon Scott wasn't an effective project manager. The team also has to be motivated so they all strive to hit their objectives and their targets. The team should also have the right skill mix. So, for example, the individuals with the expertise should be deployed in the right direction. So, for example, with Scott's trip to the South Pole, he sent a dog expert to also buy the ponies, which are a critical resource for the mission. He didn't put the right expertise in the right position. And similarly, a project team should also have the right mix of personalities. So in another video in this series, we've looked at Belbin, and what Belbin basically said was, it's just not enough to put all the most intelligent people in a team. Actually, what you need is a mix of personalities. Someone that's going to come up with the ideas, someone that's going to action the ideas, someone that's going to finish the project. Lots of different roles from the personalities. The team should also be effectively managed through the stages in group development. And again, in another video in this series, we looked at the Tuckman model, where we saw how teams come together through forming, then they try and work out their roles in the storming stage, and then they start working in the norming and begin to perform in the final stage of group development. And through each of those stages, they're going to have to be managed, in different ways, so the objectives can be reached as efficiently as possible. And also, that being said, the team should also be given clear objectives so everyone knows what's expected of them. They should also have the appropriate resources. So do they have the budget to get their objectives? Do they have the appropriate numbers of staff with the right skill set to get the objectives? Do they have the right equipment so that they can get the objectives? Again, we just saw in our example at the beginning of this section that actually, no, in a lot of those instances, Falcon Scott's trip didn't have the suitable equipment, and so it failed. The final way that a team can be successful is that to ensure roles and responsibilities are clearly defined to each team member, so everyone again knows what's expected of them and what they have to do. As you may have guessed by the fact we've talked about Tuckman and Belbin in other videos in this series, we do go into a lot more detail about team workings in other videos. So this is just a very quick recap of project teams specifically, but a lot of what we talked about regarding teams in the other video in this series relates to project teams too. Okay, so we're quickly going to have a look now at project team's structure. So the project team has to have a clear internal structure. It should have a clear leadership, and that leadership normally comes from the project manager, and delegated responsibilities to individual team members for specific parts of the project. And remember, we talked about the skill set of the project manager being able to delegate, and we've just talked about a successful team, individuals having clear roles and responsibilities. So we can see here how the things we've talked about come together in this structure. Now, the larger the team, the larger the hierarchy is likely to be. And I think that stands to reason, doesn't it? If we think back to a couple of examples we've used in the video, we talked initially about small home improvement projects. Well, the builder, the carpenter, and the decorator are likely going to have to report to the customer directly, and the customer will be the project manager. But in a larger project, like we've been talking about throughout this video with Wembley Stadium, there was 3,500 people working on it. And so the structure is going to have a range of different divisions, each with their own responsibilities and a clear project hierarchy, so everyone has a known supervisor to whom they report. Okay, so there's project structure. What we're going to look at now is organizational structure and the link to project success. So the likelihood of success of a project may depend on the organizational structure. Now, in divisional or functional organizations, which we talked about a lot in E1, where project working is less common, then the culture of the organization may be more resistant to project-based working, and project members may be less experienced at working in project teams and in a project environment. So, for example, a parent company with 3 country divisions might launch a company-wide project. Each country division may have had little or nothing to do with its counterparts before, and they may even be in competition with each other for resources or roles, so there may be a resistance to collaboration. Project members will also have responsibility to their department as well as the project, and so may have to spend time in departmental duties. So they may have to still take part in departmental meetings, for example, whilst being on the project. However, a different form of structure from divisional or functional is matrix structure. And matrix organizations have a structure and internal systems that naturally allow for new projects to start up. And as a consequence, projects in matrix organizations may be more successful. Now, the reason why the matrix structures may allow for more successful projects is that project members are likely to be team players, since this will be considered part of the selection process. Also, the project management process will be far more familiar to everyone in a matrix structure than in a divisional or functional organization. And obtaining resources will likely be more straightforward process built into everyday operating procedures. So basically, with a matrix structure, it's just more set up for project working, which is something we covered in E1, and I'm sure you're familiar with. So, for example, in a matrix structure, it's much easier for one individual to be part of a department and a project. That's how it's set up. And with divisional or functional, it just isn't.
And with that, we have come to the end of the video, unfortunately. Now, if you want to see the full course, you can visit the Astranti website, where you can sign up for a free membership, which is going to give you access for 1 week to the full course and a mock exam. Now, we update this channel twice a week, so make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more CIMA content in a similar vein to this video. And now, in addition to that, you can find us on social media. Our links will be in the description below, as well as on screen. And you can also join our Facebook study group, where you can ask questions and discuss the course content with your fellow students. Now, we hope to see you in a future video. Thank you very much.